and welcome to our last panel of the week for Gen Con Online. We are we're talking about a game that we have been playing recently, which is our 5e
I'm
games.
character, wait, I'm dice, I don't know anything, I'm not prepared.
Yeah, no, we're gonna play a game right now because why wouldn't we? You know, it could just be fun. No, we are gonna talk about all of our 5e projects. So that includes Scarredlands, that includes Legendlore, that includes Pugmire, and that also
Pugmire.
includes Crossroads Continent. So
Indeed.
I'm Dixie Cochran. I'm one of the in-house developers here at Onyx Path. I'm also the editor-in-chief. I'm here with Eddy Webb, who also co-hosts the Onyx Podcast with me.
I do.
That guy.
I'm Eddy Webb. I am one of the executive producers. No, that's not true. That's not how executive works. I am the executive producer at Onyx Path Publishing, and I'm one of the in-house developers along with Dixie.
And of course, I'm here with Rich Thomas, our fearless leader.
Hello.
Hello, Rich. I like that I have this 2 monitor setup because if I look over at the Zoom, it looks like I'm just looking at Rich in the box. It makes me happy.
Nice.
So yeah, let's get started. We obviously have a few different games that are using 5e rules or some variation thereof. Most of them use straight 5e, which is very cool. I have actually been able to play some of the peoples that we have in our games in 5e games, which is nice. Also, Rich is the only person who fixed flying speed, as far as I'm concerned, for a character with wings. Well, yeah, because in straight D&D, you fly at your walking speed, and I'm like, no, I don't like that. Like, I have wings. So yeah, let's go ahead and start out by talking about some Pugmire. There's all kinds of cool stuff going on with that. So we'll start with the rules lighter version, and then we'll work our way up to Scarredlands.
work our way into Hackmaster. There we go.
Work our way toward the Blood Sea.
We're going there. Okay.
Right. The Blood Sea. There we go. March to the Blood Sea.
Yeah.
So for folks who don't know, Pugmire is what I like to call a 5e based game. It is not directly using the rules from the world's most popular fantasy system. It's currently its 5th edition.
Greatest and beloved.
But rather I use that rule system and kind of tweak and adjust it to fit the parameters I'm looking for. And those parameters are about a setting that's set far in the future of our world, and in the ancient future, I like to call it, where humanity has gone and some of the animals left behind have been uplifted, dogs, cats, rodents, and the like. And that now they're trying to reclaim the world from what has happened. So it is very much Arthur C. Clarke's Any Sufficiently Advanced Technologies Indistinguishable from Magic, kind of writ as a whole setting. So it's not even post-apocalyptic, it's post-apocalyptic. It's wrapped around into becoming kind of a far future fantasy world. And so I wanted to kind of use Dungeons and Dragons as a base to kind of give that nod towards, okay, this is a fantasy genre game. And so it uses genre fantasy mechanics in a very specific way. So yeah, that's Pugmire. There's also a tie-in game featuring cats called Monarchies of Mao. It's a completely separate standalone game. So if you just like cats, you can pick up Monarchies of Mao and you have everything you need to play. And we've had lots of supplements, but the major ones are Pirates of Pugmire, which allows you to play piratical dogs and cats, whether you have either Pugmire or Monarchies of Mao, and also allows you to play birds and reptiles. So you could play snakes, turtles, and the like. And then there's
Yordle?
Squeaks in the Deep, which just went out on print on demand and PDF, and it's in the process of being printed. Yosha. I don't have one of those. I never got one of those. But Squeaks in the Deep is.
Make sure you can get
it. Yeah, it's so pretty. I want that.
How much looking at a dog can stop Eddie from talking?
It's true.
I like how I came onto the Zoom call being like, I had to take allergy medicine, so I'm a little bit loopy. And Rich is like, I'm going to derail everything by putting a stuffed animal in the camera.
Hold my beer.
But it works. I'm a simple man with simple pleasures.
I have a little cat on my desk. Does that count?
Ooh, kitty.
Yes. One of the monarchy's agents.
Squeaks, right. That's where we're at. Squeaks, that is the rodent source book, so you can play mice and rats. but it is also kind of my take on the mega dungeon. So it's a large underground setting with its adventure, and also includes psionic rules. So that's kind of the current state of Pugmire. Is we have the Squeaks out, the companion, which is one of our stretch goals featuring rabbits, that is getting close to getting wrapped up pretty soon. And then, like I said, we're printing Squeaks and Deep. Then we have more books that are currently unannounced that are on their way.
More books. More Pugmire.
More books.
There's also some really fun fiction collections set in the world if you want to get the idea of the tone of the game. That is something that I always recommend to people, because a lot of people, and I mean, it's been it since day one, look at Pugmire and they're like, oh, funny dog game, funny dog game. Right. But there's a lot of pathos and nostalgia in the book that I think comes across once you read the setting, and comes across even more if you read the fiction. But it is literally their entire religion is a dog that got left behind that doesn't know when their master's going to come home, and that's a sad feeling.
Yeah, there's a lot of pathos there.
Everyone knows that feeling, even if they haven't had a dog. You've seen it on TV sometime, the fucking Futurama episode that talks about, that kills everybody.
Or when your parents left you at the store, and then they just said, "Oh, we'll be back in a minute," and then it's hours go by, and store managers looking at that little kid.
That just brings all those memories flooding back.
Did you grow up in the house from Home Alone?
My parents went on a vacation, and they just never came back. I don't know why.
Went out for cigarettes.
They went to that place where Bruce Wayne's parents live.
They
live in Crime Alley, yes.
Anyway.
Why would you go down Crime Alley? It's called Crime Alley.
This is a dead giveaway.
But yeah. So.
I did want to say that I got a note, actually this morning, that the printed versions for the Kickstarter backers of Squeaks in the Deep should be shipping to our distribution partners next week. So the printers are pretty much done them. They're binding, and they're getting them on trucks, and stuff should be going out. So
that's exciting.
It's
that is very exciting.
I'm so looking forward to Squeaks. I love it. I love it. It's got mousies and rats, and it's so great.
And also, while it's not directly an Onyx Path thing, our friends at High Level Games announced relatively recently, at Onyx Path Con, and they did another kind of follow-up announcement recently, but they're working on a Monarchies of Mal board game.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun. From what I've seen of it, it's going to be kind of a quasi-cooperative game. There's certainly some things that y'all are collectively working towards, but also, if you can push your monarchy a little further ahead, that kind of peak sense of cats cooperating, but also trying to get ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. My cats love each other, but whenever one of them is in a sunbeam in the window and the other one realizes that they're taking up the whole sunbeam, they come bully the other out of the sunbeam. That's just how cats are.
It's a tall cat's sun is in fact a finite resource.
Yeah, exactly. So
it goes away sometimes, especially at night.
It may never come back ever again.
Yeah.
So I also love Pugmire and the Realms of Pugmire in general as a really good introductory version of D&D for people that haven't played before, because if you don't a lot of folks find it hard to play a character that they're not familiar with, which is why whenever I'm making a character, I'm always I mashed together these 3 pop culture references, made a character. But with Pugmire, most people tend to play their pets first, and everyone knows their pets' personalities. If I'm playing as one of my cats, then I'm walking around yelling about everything and falling off of shit. If I'm playing as one of the other ones, then I'm sneaky and a little timid, and maybe sometimes I make noise, but I'm very just I don't know what's happening. I'm scared of everything for no reason. And so that's really cool to me, because people have not everybody obviously, but a lot of folks do have trouble with that first character being okay, how are they going to act? How are they going to look? What are their mannerisms going to be? What makes them distinctive? Do they have a voice? But almost everybody has a voice for their pets too.
Yeah.
If I was playing my black cat, I would just have to yell the whole time because she mostly walks around the house going air. So that would be my catchphrase.
and the stereotypical things that people like to do in the beginning when they play it is a good way to get into it. That's why stereotypes are helpful in role playing to so that you can get your footing. So I'm gonna go stiff so and so's butt. Yeah, we hear that all the time. It's
right.
People, and that's when you get past those things,
Yeah.
and you start to really develop your character and get into the world, and it is so easy to get into that world. And you start realizing, like as you were saying about the whole, the pathos of being like, wait, were we not good enough? Did you left us? Were we bad dogs? I mean, there's a lot of a lot of depth to it that is very easy to get into. You just kind of go in through the stereotypes, and next thing you know, boom, you're feeling the dog experience and the cat experience and the rodent experience.
Absolutely, and it's interesting. I've watched so many people when they're first learning how to role play. Again, they try out Pugmire, and watching the light bulbs kind of click. It's like, oh, I'm doing this all of the time, and I didn't even realize I was doing it. Now I'm just adding like a little bit of dice and a tiny bit of rules to it.
Yeah.
And it goes from this scary thing of like, oh, I have to get it perfect, I have to do it right, to just, oh, okay, I've kind of been doing this all along, and then they slide in. So yeah, it's there's certainly a mental checklist I have of the jokes that people will make when they first start playing Pugmire, but
Yeah.
I don't mind that, right? Because it's to me,
That's part of the
when I hear that
process.
stuff, I know they're having fun. I know they're enjoying it, because it's like, oh yeah, okay, here's the joke, here's the throw me a bone joke. Cool, great, we got that off the list now. We can do that.
Throw me a
Yeah.
bone.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is really easy to move past that. Like, generally, I always assume the first session is going to be a lot of that. And then later sessions, it's like, okay, now we've gotten that out of the way. And I'm sure there's going to be puns thrown around because we like throwing puns. But, like, let's actually dig into this world. And, like, Squeaks in the Deep is genuinely creepy. It's not scary or gross or horrifying, but it's real creepy. In a way that I really appreciate, because it reminds me of, like, all the creepy things that I read as a kid that weren't, like, gory or gross. They're just like, oh, you're a little weird. This is weird. I don't like it. It's weird. And that's fun for me.
Which is the way I think if you're playing a dog character and you're down in there and you're dealing with the rodents that are down there and things like that, that makes perfect sense. It shouldn't be, oh yeah, it's just another walk in the park for Bob Pitbull. It should be, well, this is it's weird. There's smells I'm not used to. There are intensities I'm not used to. I'm all squeezed in here. If you're a cat, your whiskers are hitting the sides of the walls too much. I don't want to put my head in there.
That's actually
it should work off of all of the all the character types.
That's part of why I enjoyed bringing my snake character to the Squeaks game that we did, was because since he's a snake, he had to wear like 18 coats and like a big hat, because it's very cold underground, and so he's just this weird little snake guy who's like, I don't love this because I like the sun a lot.
Right.
Do you wear an ascot or
No,
or
he
a turtleneck, something to protect the right below the head?
No, he like a Doctor Who type scarf. He had like a big old scarf.
He's kind of rats forever. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, so he was great.
I am the plaid snake.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. You talk about kind of the spookiness, creepiness of it, and since I've started running Squeaks and Deep, because I'm intentionally trying to bring that. Horror is not quite the right word,
right,
but it's the same adjacent, right? It's scary stuff. And because most of the animals rely on smell, I've been trying to include smells in there. And weirdly, the smells seem to be a part that really freaks a lot of people out. It's like, as you walk in the corridor, you start to smell rotting flesh. And like, oh, that's so creepy. And it's like, you haven't seen anything yet. I just described as smell. But it's weirdly, smell is one of those senses that we don't often talk about a lot in tabletop role-playing games. So when I started thinking about it more, it's like, oh, this actually makes it more creepy.
Yeah, that's one of those things where, like, I just think about how I would react to the smell of rotting meat, because I mean, everybody smelled something that's like gone off before, right? And then I imagine that it's like 10 times that, and like hitting you in the face like a Georgia summer, and I'm just like, nope, do not want that at all. Like because I don't imagine it like oh, this milk I think is going bad. I imagine it as a, like, I have to try not to retch, like this is the worst thing ever. Yeah. And so that is interesting to me, especially if you get into the mindset of playing an animal, which is also why we did things with like Gunpowder Panic and Pirates, because really loud sounds scare animals for the most part.
Right.
Weirdly, not my cats,
professionally trained
but
warrior or one of the magic using classes that is using things that explode a lot or crossing the alchemist thing. obviously they shouldn't have that, but a normal dog or cat or whatever, that whoa,
Yeah.
what the heck was that?
Yeah, and it's actually funny because like I've seen a lot of people since that came out have said that was a really nice balance, because so many fantasy games, when they introduce guns, it becomes, well, everyone should have a gun, because why would you not have a gun? And they say, oh, well, there's a reason why you wouldn't have a gun. And that's one of the things that
None of your friends will talk to you.
Yeah, it's like, because you're too loud. Just need to stop.
Yeah, shooting a gun in like a village or city in Pugmire is like shouting fire in a theater. Like it's very uncool to do, because you are going to freak out almost everybody around you.
Right, and it's so funny because like a lot of games we work on, I do try to think about game balance to a degree and how that's going to fit within fiction. But with Pugmire, often the fiction comes first, and then I'll go, oh, and it just happens to give me this nice little bit of game balance stuff. Like with Onyx for Squeaks and Deep, I was like, okay, so you have to have some kind of tell. It's like your nose bleeds, or the weird sounds happen. And it was just because if you look at a lot of fiction, it's like that's what happens. Like we talk about Stranger Things, but like 10's nose bleeds all the time when she uses her powers.
11,
and it's
right?
Like, yeah, sorry.
10.
And that's
You demoted her.
I did. But I mean that's a pretty common trope, or like ear bleeds, or like there's sounds.
Or your like eyes go black or something. Yeah.
Right, but it's like, oh, but that also means that they can't cast magic silently, unlike some spells. So actually, also nice balance.
Think about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my mouse character, I think, gave off an aroma of like cinnamon and coffee. So he could probably be kind of subtle about it, because if people were all like, where's that delicious smell coming from? It wouldn't be that weird.
Right, but then what if someone realizes, oh, every time that mouse is around and I smell that smell, and then
exactly.
Associate the two. Yeah.
Like, oh, something weird happens whenever this mouse is around and I smell coffee. And also, I don't even like coffee, because we're cats. We don't like coffee. So this is just a really, really strange rodent in general. But yeah.
Nice. So yeah, that's Pugmire.
I'm excited.
That's Pugmire. But yeah, and Eddie, I mean, you've been like, when did we put out Pugmire first? When was the first time Pugmire was exposed beyond the initial, when we were doing little teasers and going to conventions and doing beta testing?
I actually recently came across the cards we were using at Gen Con when we first started promoting it heavily at Gen Con.
Aww.
Gen Con, as like we're doing an online version of now.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I came back around. And the back of the cards actually say, come in Kickstarter 2015.
Wow.
It did not come in Kickstarter 2015. It was next
2016,
year,
right? Yeah.
Right, yeah. But that was our goal. So, I mean, that's how long we've been talking about it since 2014.
Yeah.
Right.
Kickstarter was 2016. Books came out
and it was
about a year later.
Spring or summer 2016, I want to say, because I remember
about there, yeah.
Like, I very distinctly remember a party that I was at while I was watching the Kickstarter go up to like 100K, like very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And like every time I checked it, it felt like it had like doubled. And that was one of the first books that I had edited that was a Kickstarter. So I was super excited for that, even though I wasn't part of the company yet, like full time.
Right.
So just like seeing that, like talking to Rose Bailey, like, oh my god, this book's doing so well, like, oh my god.
It did.
But yeah, I remember like being at a party, like hitting refresh on my phone on a Kickstarter and being like, what the hell is happening? So yeah, no, it was lovely. And then Monarchies came out pretty quickly after that. It didn't take that much longer to get Monarchies wrapped up.
That was I think the next year. We had the Kickstarter for that next year. Mm-hmm. Because I remember I was living in Ireland when I was doing the finishing touches on that book. And that was 2017. So
yeah, and I edited it in spring 2018, which I will always remember because I was editing it while staying at an Airbnb for one of my best friend's weddings. Because I had a pretty tight deadline on it. And I wasn't like in the party because my best friend didn't really have a wedding party. She had like people do readings, so I had no responsibilities. So I was just like in the Airbnb with my little tiny laptop, like trying to finish up Monarchies so that I could go where it needed to go.
Right.
Yeah. Nice.
Go forth.
Yeah.
So Pugmire's getting up there in age.
Yeah. Well, and it's really interesting because some of the things that you did with Pugmire that I don't say altered or tweaked the most beloved role playing system in all of creation, 5e.
Currently in 5th edition, yes.
Right. Delightful and desirable, is are things that we've started to see. We've seen pop up in actually official ones and variants that show up on the DM's Guild and things like that, and other people who've gone and done some 5e stuff as well. So it's actually pretty cool to see that, and I think we'll want to learn from that experience. We were talking about it earlier today. We were talking about StoryPath, our in-house system, and how that 5 years ago was hitting and people were starting to see it for the first time, and how much we learned about what worked and what didn't work for that. And I know you and I have talked a fair bit about what worked and hasn't worked for Pugmire.
Yeah,
most of which has worked, but it's just been like, oh, what if we did this instead, or what if that spell list was like this,
And granted, I'm a lot. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say is like, you're absolutely right in that there's certain things that I did earlier, but then now people have taken those to a much longer conclusion, and so now I'm looking back and going, okay, I didn't go through those extra steps, and now there's an interesting refinements. For example, the whole people's conversation now, where like you get your mechanical bumps due to your background. That was something I did in Monarchies of Mal. But some people have taken that and gone to some really interesting directions with that I wasn't thinking about at the time. So it's like, yeah, there's definitely like, I'm now learning from where the design has gone, but certainly it was still very wild to see people go like, oh, this is a cool new thing. And it's like, I actually did that 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That's really cool. I'm glad to see people are catching on to that.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything official coming out of Gen Con yet this year about what the, whatever new rule book is going to be coming out for the 5th edition of the most popular role-playing game in the galaxy. Might, as far as we know, might be 5.5 or whatever like that. But I think a lot of these things are actually going to be built in.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to be announcing, if anything, but I do know that earlier Spelljammer was trending on Twitter, and I'm super excited for Spelljammer, so. Which isn't a game that we make, but I like it.
I did see that it's available on Roll20 now.
Nice.
Not Roll20. D&D Beyond. That's
cool. Well, we're talking about our 5e games.
Right.
By gum. I just want to say
gum.
by gum. It's a fun thing to say. Let's talk a little bit about Legendlore. Let's poke at that a little bit. Legendlore is, of course, an isekai game where you play as either yourself or another person from our world who gets transported to a fantasy realm based on some comic books, and it's super cool. Like,
based on specific comic books, not just like random
based on
books.
the Legendlore comic books.
Lying around.
You know what I meant. They all know what I mean. It's fine. Anyway,
based on a license from the folks who own the rights to the Legendlore comic books.
I'm trying, y'all. I have Benadryl in my system.
No, that's fine. Although I was in prep for this, I was looking up. I was taking a glance at the comic books, and I forgot two things. One, that it was Guy Davis who did the original art on the two, and two, that it was in the late '80s, so it was a very different Guy Davis than I'm used to seeing in comics.
Yeah,
it was like before he worked for us, even, or probably before he worked White Wolf, even.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it is. I like the isekai genre, and I especially like how this one works, because it's not just that you're transported and nothing else changes. These gates happen fairly regularly, so you could like be walking across this like fantasy world and find like a crashed airplane, or a like random cell phone or something, because it's like there's just debris, and also there's debris from other places too. So it is an interesting and strange world.
You can make some weird things in there.
Yeah, and also as you progress and as you get further in the story, you change. Like the world changes you. So even though you always start out pretty much as a human, you could end up being a bunch of different peoples very, very quickly.
Right. Yep. Yeah. If you want to be.
Yeah.
Like for example, you could be I actually have them right here. It could be a Brizine. I don't know how it's pronounced. Well, I only see it written down. It's troll. It's kind of troll.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
They have dwarves, but their own kind of specific take on dwarves. Same with elves. Harefoot is kind of their take on a hobbit. Yeah.
Also, that's what stuff they told me I would be, and I was like, really? Is it because I'm short?
But
Harry.
Also playable orcs and pixies.
Yes, I want to
Which are
play a
very
pixie
cool.
so bad. Yeah.
That's how I would play a pixie. So bad.
Mhm.
so, so how did we come to make this book, Rich? Can we talk a little bit about the process?
Well, we obviously we enjoyed the comic back in the day, and as it metamorphed through a couple different editions and versions, they tried to keep it into a semi-coherent storyline and things like that. But I mean, there's a period there where I was just not buying almost any comics at all because poor and uh,
Mhm.
and so missed out on a bunch of things I was trying to keep track of. But generally, we had a communication with the folks who own it, and threw some ideas back and forth on what we could do with it. Said, yeah, it played into a lot of the things we were interested in.
Mhm.
With first of all, fun art, but also they were very open to what we needed to do to sort of bring it into even the 2020s, and so that was really helpful, and it helped us work out how does this work, how does that work. um, Steffi and her entire crew did a fantastic job on it. It is
Oh
a
yeah.
really fun book to
Hmm.
read even before you start playing it, and then being able to do that whole sort of at you you can go through the entire kind of genre of it's exactly you but in a fantasy world, and then how do things change so that you can survive in that world.
Right.
And I mean, you can get
Mhm.
almost like kind of grim and gritty with that sort of stuff, like some versions have where people transport into a fantasy world, and rather than being, hey, we're all really good at what we do, you're not at all, and you don't know how bows and arrows work, and you get killed. um,
Yeah.
it's just like there's ways to do that, and then there's the way that you can come over and choose exactly how have you transformed through the process of traveling from one world to the other.
Hmm.
And so that means you could come over, and if you always wanted to be an orc, you can make when you come over, you can make the character that is an orc. So there's an enormous amount of customability, and almost nothing is forced on the players
Hmm.
Yeah.
uh, to do that sort of thing, so that you have the freedom. um, if you come if one of the famous series that I remember reading, and I think before Legendlore this thing came out. um, One of the characters was someone who was in a wheelchair,
Hmm.
and when they came over, they were now strong and powerful, and just like, it was like one of the most strongest of dwarven warriors and stuff, and went I guess a little towards a kind of, would someone in a disabled situation want to go the other way and become
Mhm.
way overabled in some areas,
Yeah.
and live that in their fantasy world.
Mhm.
um, and that's a reasonable way to think about about that sort of thing, but it's not the only way, and it's certainly not a way where if you have to have that happen for Legendlore. In Legendlore, you can do that, or you come over and you are who you are, and then you get into your battle or mage um, transport,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
whether it's a battle chair or a floating um, magic carpet or whatever, you can make that work for you and for what makes you feel good to play the game. And I
Yep.
think that's a really important way that this genre, as well as the games, have changed over the years.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing for how a lot of fantasy gaming has evolved. Is that we're like most games, at least most of the ones I play, have gotten very much away from like this thing fixes you if you're disabled because it's like
Right.
people who are
Mhm.
disabled aren't broken.
Mhm.
And you can be the strongest, most powerful dwarf warrior without the use of your legs. Like
Hmm.
Right.
that's fine. Like you don't have to have legs to be strong or powerful. And that's just a kind of weird thing that we've always had. Like it's strange in cyberpunk settings a lot of time. Oh, sup with the raid from 16-bit Eric. Hello. We're talking about disability in gaming. Thank you for coming over. I saw part of your
Hello.
stream earlier. It was really good, but then I had to come do this one. Um, but yeah. So like, it's just one of those things where like just because you get transported to a fantasy world doesn't mean it's going to change you completely. Like I don't know who I would be without my mental health issues, you know.
Right.
And so like as
Role
much as
playing
it would
games
be,
can enable you to explore that. I mean, you
yeah,
can say,
Right.
okay, well, I have a character and they're exactly this exact same way because I want to see how out of me being personally involved with it, how are you reacting to this person acting like I would act?
yeah,
Or
Right.
you can say, I don't want to deal with it here, and my wizard is like this. It's like I'm like Gandalf, you know, and
yeah.
Gandalf never worries about stuff, which in fact isn't even true. But you know,
Right.
heroically speaking,
Right.
just dive in there.
So yeah, we do have some
Absolutely.
really
And
cool
it's
stuff in Legendlore for that. Sorry, Eddie, go ahead.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
and
a
that's
good game.
and that was one of the things that I thought the site did a really good job with, is because I mean, not this isn't shade on the comic at all. It's just it was written in the late '80s initially and into the early '90s. I mean, it's a very different cultural standpoint.
Yep.
And Steffi did a fantastic job of making sure that it was updated to be more inclusive for these kinds of considerations, while not taking away the fun and the intensity and the action and the kind of lingering drama that could be inside of that legend lore setting. Because you're right, it's like with the idea that other things that people always regularly coming across, there is a bit of an edge to the setting, which is great, but it never slides into kind of gratuitous edginess. It's just more like, okay, there are horrible things that happen. Sometimes heroes need to band together and to fight that.
Yeah.
So Legendlore is a really good balance of those factors, I thought.
I also feel like the art reflects that. Like if you look at the art
Mhm.
throughout the book, it is a very inclusive book. Steffi DeVan thinks very hard about those sorts of things. And so do our artists, and so do our people who do art notes, and so do our writers now. And that not that they never did, but all of our writers are really good about it. And so that's
Right.
really cool for me. Like I like the fact that if you are like, you know, a lot of times in those comics and cartoons, especially from the '80s, it was like 4 white characters who were all, you know, at least somewhat conventionally attractive.
Right.
And now
Mhm.
it's like you can be anybody and be a big fantasy hero, and that's how it should be. Like you should be able to be yourself, like exactly how you are, and be this fantasy hero, and
Mhm.
that's
Right.
great.
Particularly for this kind of game. I mean, when we're talking about this genre, you've got to have give in there to make it fun for people. And that's really the point of doing it.
Right.
Exactly.
But I mean, even aside from all of that, I mean, even if you're just like, okay, that's all great, but what cool stuff does Legendlore book give me? It's also packed with that. I mean, there are a whole bunch of new class options. We have new barbarian paths, new paladin oaths, new roguish archetypes. And we even have 6 different prestige classes, like the banneret, which are basically riders that actually use mounts and actually fight on their mounts. Or the incarnate, which are shape changers, and tattoo magic, they're like tattoo adept. So I mean, all that stuff is great, and we love it. But also separately, if you just want a book of new cool options to throw into your D&D game, this book is also fantastic for that too.
Yeah, I'm always wanting to do that with like most of our books, like all of our 5e stuff. I'm like, oh, can I play my Asathi
Right.
in
And sorry, I rattled
D&D?
off. I was wrong tab. I was rattling off some Scarred Lands. That's my mistake. But still, there are still class options in this book as well. There's a gunslinger, and there are still like new oaths for the druids and whatnot. So I mean, the examples I gave were incorrect, but the idea that there's a whole bunch of class options in here is still accurate.
I like
So
that
was
I
my
just
mistake.
believed you. I was just like, yeah, Eddie knows what he's talking
Yeah, he was
about.
like, yeah, that's totally true. Because I was like, wait, tattoo magic, isn't that
That's
Scarred
really
Lands?
cool because now we can play in both games.
I was
Now
kind of
you
thinking
Well, yeah, you
that
can.
too when you said New Barbarian Paths and Tattoo Magic. I was like, oh, weird, that's also in Scarred Lands. But then I was
No,
like,
that-
oh,
that-
maybe
that
they
was
had
my-
the same idea.
But I mean, also it's cool that, you know, again, both of them can be if you just want these nice toolboxes for your own bespoke ad hoc
Right.
D&D game. But on top of that, if you ever did really want to do, can I play myself a D&D game? We have the perfect work for you with Legendlore.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why we do still do 5th edition games because there is that crossover of the standardized systems thing, the tropes people understand, you know, advantage, disadvantage. I mean, all that sort of stuff
Right.
is a good thing like that. So if you want to put your Asathi into Legendlore, or theoretically into Pugmire, that would be scary for everybody.
I mean, that's
God,
just
yeah.
my snake character, but scary.
Right.
Right.
But that's it. I mean, you could simply bring it over and change the name. It's not a Asathi anymore. It's the plaid snake, as we were saying.
I almost named my Asathi after my Pugmire character, but then I realized that my Pugmire character was a soft boy, and my Asathi was like a very angry woman, and I was like, I don't want to give her his name. Like he's a sweet little snake. He's a little creepy and weird.
Baby snake.
Just a little weirdo snake.
But yeah,
So I did inadvertently slide us to Scarlands if we want to start talking about that.
If we have to talk about Scarlands, I guess we will.
As of today, if anybody's interested in hearing about Dead Man's Rust, there is an interview with Travis Legg up on the Onyx Pathcast. It is the episode that came out literally today. And they're going to be doing an actual play of Dead Man's Rust, not the whole thing, because it's like a full scenario, like a full story. But we're going to be doing pieces of it on the Pathcast for a little bit here.
But why is the Pathcast doing things about Scarlands?
Because it's Scarlands Month!
Yay!
As all of you in chat probably know, but if you don't, I'll tell you about it. It is our 10th anniversary this year. That's why we have a little 10th anniversary logo down in the corner over there, down in the corner.
Indeed.
So every month this year, we are having a 90% off sale on Drive Thru RPG because it's 10% of the original price because it's 10 years.
Okay.
And currently it's Guardlands Month. It just kicked over on August 1st.
Just 5 days ago.
Yeah. So, so this is very exciting. Seeing the stuff that's on sale is amazing. Ian just linked it in the chat. Thank you, Ian. And, like, one of the things that I love about it, I've been trying to get my my main DM. I'm like, buy all this stuff because he already likes, like, Scarred Lands as a setting. And I'm like, the creature collection alone is worth it. Like, so worth it. Please get it. Because just like with all the other 5e stuff, it's compatible, right? So, yeah, we've go ahead.
Just to say, if you're going to go try to find the creature collection on PDF on sale, it's not. The first half of the month is the newer Scarlands material, the 5e and Pathfinder material, and then the second half will be from the original run of Scarlands, like the creature collection and things like that. So,
got it. Okay, good to know.
And that's the what would we call that? What we call that? The Die 20 era, the 3rd edition era.
I meant the new creature collection that we kickstarted with the other company.
Oh,
because that one is on sale and it's really good.
Gotcha. I had just done the whole retrospective of how we started with the creature collection back then, so
right.
to that.
You can get both creature collections.
By the time the month's over, you can get both PDFs for 10%.
So many monsters.
What you would
but yeah, like
so many monsters.
Literally, the creature collection that we have up right now is like $1.50, and it's such a good little book. And also Scarlet as a setting is very cool. Like, even if you just want to play with the, like, peoples and the various things, like, pick up the core. If you're a Pathfinder fan, we don't have it for 2 weeks. 2E hadn't come out yet, but we do have the Pathfinder version. I know it's pretty easy to convert, I've been told. I don't know. I don't really play Pathfinder. But, like, I think Scarlet is like, yet another one of those books that I'm like, I want to shake people out of their, Wizards only bubble sometimes. And be like, there's so many companies doing cool supplements that you could totally use. Like, they're very, very usable. Please go look at them. And not just us, but this is about us, so I'm going to talk about us. But yeah, like, there's so many cool, like, third-party, D&D games and settings out there, and classes and everything. And I'm not even talking homebrew, because there's also homebrew, obviously. But there's so much cool stuff out there that you can plop into an ongoing campaign if you want to. Or you could, start a new campaign in the actual Scarred Lands once you're, like, more adapted to the setting. But past that, there's stuff that you could just drop into any D&D game, and that's awesome. And also vice versa. Like, for the actual play we're doing, my Asathi is a straight D&D class. I'm playing an Arcane Trickster Rogue. Because I wanted to show people that you can play your favorite D&D class in the Scarred Lands, and it won't break anything.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yep.
But also, we have some weird and awesome classes in here. Jessica Ross.
Eddie, maybe you'd like to say some of those.
Sorry. Yeah. Eddie, do you want to say some of the cool new classes?
You the ones I just read off a minute ago?
Yeah. There was a Banneret who fights mounted.
Tattoo magic folk and
yes. There's also the Runecaster who specializes in runic magic, since we didn't go that one. And there's, like, the Spellbow, who's actually a warrior spellcaster. They specialize in archery. And we also have, like, some new Sorceress Origins, like Titanically Corrupted, new packs for Warlocks, new kinds of arcane traditions for wizards like Battle Mage. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's so many options.
Path of the
and-
Rage
and-
Witch for a barbarian is awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, to the point
Mhm.
where I'm thinking about asking my home game if I can switch my barbarian to that path. Because we just hit level 3, so, like, we just started doing cool stuff. And I'm like, it won't hurt anything to switch it to Rage Witch.
Yeah.
It's a cool path.
Yeah.
And
There's some
and-
amazing flavor, and especially those classes that like the warlocks, the sorcerers, the barbarians, where you're using the setting as your patron or the path that you're on and things like that. Like, I think there's actually a druid, at least one druid, a circle that is different for Scarlands because of two for the both the nature goddess and the nature goddess. I'm not sure which it is. Maybe both. And Titan devastation and things that happen. There's just so much there. Is it a fungus one, Eddie?
Believe so. There's the Circle of the Fallen, which are your kind of neutrally, evilly aligned ones. I'm skimming through here. I don't think there's a fungus one in that one, but there's also the Circle of the Jorda, which are watching over the Elvish lands.
Gotcha.
And they have a companion and the like.
Just
they do have an Awakened Tree companion, so it's related.
That's cool.
Yeah.
They have Triffids.
So rather than go straight into like the background of Scarlet Lands, because I feel like we've covered that on so many podcasts and in a bunch of videos, I just recommend that you go watch and listen to those if you want to know like how it came to be, kind of, because it's a story that we've told a million times, including literally today at noon on the podcast. So like,
and on Monday.
Yeah, and on Monday. But I'm a big fan of literally all the supplements, because once again, even if you're not like running the adventure, they have so much cool stuff in them. Yugman's Guide to Gelspad has a bunch of new peoples and classes and backgrounds and things. So does the upcoming, so does Dead Man's Rust, which just came out, which we can talk about in a minute. One of my other favorite ones that I feel like doesn't get enough love is Frostlands of Fenerlich.
Yes.
I love Frostlands of Fenerlich. It's got some amazing peoples in it. They're super, super fun. One of them is like a sentient human-shaped ooze person, which I very excitedly played when we played before. And it also it has a lot of other characters appropriate to a Frostlands setting. So definitely gives you some story hooks. So if you're going to go play, once again, even something like Icewind Dale, you could still port the characters over, and it would be really interesting. Or you can port your Icewind Dale characters into Frostlands of Fenerlich. Like, if you finish with Icewind Dale and you're like, I want to keep playing up here in the weird snowy north, you know?
I think one of the things about Frostlands too is that it was created and put together for the Slurasian Vault, which is our community content group, and the contributions have been by regular folks sitting down and writing these things out and putting them up to expand on that area. And anyone could do that. So if you do play in it, you get inspiration from it. You want to write up the things that you came up with. You want to write up the adventure that everybody just went through. You can actually put that up on the Slurasian Vault and add to the mix, and also get paid.
Honestly, Slurasian Vault is one of those things. Like I feel like most of the content in there is incredibly, incredibly good, which isn't always the case
high quality
with some of
level,
those. Yeah, but like honestly, until you started saying that, I forgot that Frostlands wasn't something that we released, because it's really good.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that was like it's a Slurasian Vault project by some of our regular contributors, kind of driving the wheel. There's also a novel set in Scarlands that I love called Vigilant.
It's fantastic.
I talk about it all the time, and every time I do, if I talk about it, the authors come into Discord and they're like, blush. But I love editing fiction in general, just because it tends to be more fun than editing rules, because rule books are basically textbooks, right? Like, yeah, all the setting chapters have some fiction-y bits, but like for the most part, it's a textbook. It's telling you about a thing. But then like, I freaking loved editing that book. I wanted to just read it over and over again. It was really good. I'm a huge fan of all the stuff that's been put out in Scarlands. And also, if you're a fan of classic Scarlands, it's based on the Serpent Amphora. So it's something that will be familiar to you. But if you're not familiar with classic Scarlands, which I was not, full disclosure, it's just a really good story. And a really nice introduction to like part of Scarlands without having to kind of overwhelm you with throwing the whole setting at you at once. because the setting is
Yeah.
very strange and heavy metal, and our unicorns will murder you with their horns. There's a blood sea. It's a very kind of it's one of the more like horror-y or just very creepy like D&D settings that I've come across.
Yeah.
And
It
I
very
love
much can be. I
Yeah.
think against the devastation and the rebuilding and the maybe not so successful rebuilding that came after the God Titan War.
Yeah.
I think that it creates a canvas that's darker, but then I think it also means that when you're doing extremely fantastic things against that canvas, you shine brighter. Your valiance in the face of all this just makes it seem like you're so brave, so honorable. So just it raises the bar, because the rest of the world is going, I can't believe we found another piece of that Titan in this tree.
Yeah.
What the heck? The whole place is now filled with moss and spider webs. Why?
Yeah, we had talked in the podcast today. Once again, go listen to it if you want to hear more about both Grimbright and Hope Punk as good words to describe it. Because you are the one kind of like holding the candle against the darkness to pull something from under the vigil.
Right.
And you can be the big hero who makes the world a better place. Or you can just go be a necromancer and live at a hotel and have a great time. If you really want to.
I still prefer
I love
Holocaust.
good aligned necromancers, though. That's awesome.
I love good aligned necromancers. They make me so happy. But yeah, no, I'm a very, very, very big fan of that. And I like the fact that we've put out so much good stuff for it. And yes, as they were saying in the chat a minute ago, Travis Legg, who heads a lot of our Scarletlands projects, is also a really prolific 3C and Vault author. So if you want to support Travis directly, that's not a bad way to do it. Because Scarletlands is, of course, is a setting that we own, even though we don't own the D&D 5e rules.
Right.
So yeah, that's super exciting.
I didn't want to say Travis's name because the last time we said his name, he actually popped up, and then all of our frames went wrong. So
Right.
the overlay just goes.
We are not summoning you, Travis. Please stay on top.
So that's it. I mean, he can't help it. I mean, it's just he's teleported in.
That's funny.
It's like a curse.
Someone did ask in the thing, and I don't think this is the thing we can do. Asked if we could, if somebody could make a how to use the Legendlore classes in the Scarletlands and the 3C and Vault, and because Legendlore is not owned by us, I don't think that would be a thing we could do.
Yeah.
You could make your own classes that are similar to Legendlore classes in the 3C and Vault, as long as you're not using their terminology. And that would be fine. You could kind of cheat it a little bit, but you can't actually make like a specific Legendlore conversion to Scarletlands because we don't own Legendlore. That's like asking if you could convert V5 to Scarletlands, which would be hilarious, but also you can't do it. I want to play a Lysombre in the Scarletlands. They wouldn't last 3 minutes.
Too bright. Too much sun.
One good unicorn horn, it's all over.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that is Scarletlands. If you want a really heavy metal D&D setting with a terrifying Hornsaw forest and a sea of blood that has a dead titan underneath it, and if you ever listen to Travis run a game, you're trying to collect pieces of Mormo's giblets before anybody else can, because Travis only likes it to be funny parts of Mormo. It's like never gonna be like Mormo's right hand. It's always gonna be like Mormo's fingernail clippings, Mormo's gallbladder.
Left eyelid.
Yeah, exactly. I think in the game we're playing right now it is cheeks. And no one has specified yet if we mean face cheeks or other cheeks.
I was going to say, gluteae maximi or...
I do not want to know.
I don't know, and at this point I'm too afraid to ask.
Don't say it because he'll pop on the toes.
Yeah, because he likes it to be weird, I imagine it's just these, like, sliced off, which is creepy and weird, because the butt cheeks are a little too big. I feel like the butt has probably been... like divided into more than 2 pieces at this point, because Mormo's
needs to be bifurcated.
Well, because Mormo's been torn into 1,000 pieces and like scattered across the Scarletlands. So
the vengeance of the gods on the Titans was often extreme.
Ian just said in the chat that the Eye of Vecna meets the Islet of Mormo, a match made in heaven, and I am into that. Like, I want to run a crossover adventure now where you have to find...
For the first time, Vecna can take a nap.
Oh no, the mystery of the cheeks is going to happen someday on 3C and Vault. Okay, all right.
No. We should perhaps move on to our last 5e
that was my plan. We were having a good time for a second there, so I was just rolling with it.
Yeah, thanks for ruining that, Eddie.
No, I'm just trying to get away from Travis, give us more ideas. That's all.
So, our final... I have to say this. Travis is just being cheeky. Anyway, our final... Our final thing
She'll be here all week, folks.
That we have talked about is the Crossroads Continent, which is Rich Thomas's little baby project.
No.
That's been
No, nothing
incubating
of that.
for decades, because that's how long it takes a baby to get made. Sometimes.
We started playing a really long time ago. We kept playing, and then there was a little gap, and now we're 5e.
Exactly. So we've also talked about that a fair amount, both on the Pathcast and other places. June was our Crossroads Continent month.
It was.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the book itself, as opposed to like how it came to be? Because we've been over that so many times. Like, what is in this book that people can play with, Rich?
The peoples of the Crossroads Continent?
Yes. Who are said peoples?
Those are the peoples that you could be. In the old days, that's the classic dwarfs, elves, half orcs, and halflings, and all that sort of stuff. In this world, and there's a lot. We were talking in a previous discussion about how writers and creators are influenced by everything they see, everything they get. It just goes into your head and it mushes all around and it comes out into something that you're doing. And the Crossroads Continent is very much that, mostly by me, but not really. I would always listen to the things that the players were coming up with and incorporate what I could into the world. If it was a cool storyline or back history that they came up with, that's now in there.
Yep.
So in terms of the types of characters you can play, there's a lot other ones besides the classic original D&D, or I'm sorry, most beloved role-playing game system.
You can say D&D, you just can't write it.
No,
I can't write it. I can say it. It's
the world's most popular fantasy game system, and it's currently in 5th edition.
I can slander, but I can't libel. Is that it?
We cannot use it for marketing purposes.
I see. So back in the day when we were playing D&D, set kind of much more limited type of character types you could play. So I started adding some more, and I pulled them from all different places. Sometimes they were D&D adjacent. Sometimes they were just things that I saw that I went, how would this be as a character? So you can also play Eddie, your guy is a mantid, not to be confused with a manticore or manticora, which is a giant, not a giant, but a big cat person. Lions, tigers. There's different looks that go with them, and it depends on where they fit in the cultural ecosystem of the manticores. The mantids are the insect people. They're highly logical. Sort of, can you outspock Mr. Spock? Chitinous, have some real, very exaggerated leaping abilities because of those strong locust-like back legs, and they are a lot of fun to play, as Eddie's shown. We have the half ogres, which were not official at the time, but I brought on because there was interest in somebody even stronger and more violent than a half orc. So I was like, all right, guys, let's try these. And I'm trying to sort of work my way backwards. One of the varieties of elves are the winged folk. And they go all the way back to the very origins of the elves. Gave themselves the ability to fly with wings and such, and so that's one of the subgroups of elves. And you can also play, and this is one of the apparently the most favorite when people hear about this now, and so which is fantastic. There's a whole people that are basically ducks. They are bipedal ducks. They are extremely influenced by Howard the Duck, which was something that I quacked up about when reading when I was young. But they were also influenced by seeing them functioning in fantasy gaming sessions. I believe originally created by Janelle Jacquez, who's a friend of ours, and so all of that with Duck Tower. But again, not something that I actually ever got to play, but I was aware that it was happening, and I was like, well, if they can do it, I would put some ducks in. And then I saw RuneQuest, and I went, there you go, there you go. So ducks are actually, it's funny because the first round of new players that came in, I had 2 ducks, a mantid, a sea elf, and a manticore, and it was just like, you're going for all the edges, huh? Okay, that's cool. In the 20 years that we played, weekly almost, there were not all that many on those edges, but most of the people stayed in the zone of human, dwarf, elf, sort of thing. A couple halflings. So, yeah. So it's that's what that all there's how to put those characters into any 5e world is all the information and the stats and the bonuses you get from their cultures, and then there's little write-ups, just a little taste of where they exist in the Crossroads Continent, little write-ups about their major major city or major location where they've got their stuff. So the humans are divided up into the various sections that they exist on the continent, and some major cities and locations and things like that. So that's a fun, and then again, little book. And then I believe it's next Wednesday we'll be releasing Down in the Hole, which is a brand new adventure for the Crossroads Continent that we wrote in time for Onyx PathCon and the month of celebrating Crossroads Continent, which was June. And Eddie and Dixie, Matthew, Travis, a couple other people, all did the beta testing for it as because I had not written an adventure in a really long time, and to come back in and write one and write it fresh, and I basically went back to the first principles of way back in the day. So it's it's down in the hole, muddy, mucky. Speaking of Eddie, we're talking about smells. Every one of the room descriptions has a smell description in there in the description because of being underground. There's a certain murky, musky, damp, wet, ooky, whatever it is. Some of them smell cleaner than others because they're also, there's other things going on down there than just the natural stuff. And it was a lot of fun to do, and it's the print on demand and the PDF versions are going to be on sale on Wednesday. This Wednesday coming. And again, something you could, the nice thing about it, I think you can drop it right in to any 5e campaign you're running. If you don't know what you want to do that night, just want to say, guy, you find this treasure map, which is often how we started our adventures back in the day, and just jump right in.
Yeah. No, it's a really good introductory adventure. Like it's really good for level 1 and 2 characters. And especially I'm thinking about using it to run for people who haven't played D&D before, because it is so straightforward. Like, here's a treasure map. Go in there. There's gonna be some weird shit. Have fun, But
explore. It's an exploration thing. Though.
But if they really poke around,
dense.
I was gonna say if they really poke around, there's all kinds of stuff to find. When I edited it, I hadn't finished playing it yet, so I had to edit it and then pretend like I hadn't read all the secrets to play, because I'm sitting there in the game like, well, Dixie knows what that water does, but my character has no freaking clue, and so I just have to pretend that I don't know what that water does, or I don't know what this thing is, or whatever. I don't know what this other hole is for, even though like I knew everything. I had just read it, but yeah, no, that was really, really fun. Highly recommend.
Glad everybody did, and we're going to do a wrap up for the adventure in some weeks to come. We'll get back into it and finish it up and see what everybody wants to do after that.
Because we're going to kill that fish with 1 hit point. I don't care what Matthew says.
No, you can't. That was his friend.
That damn fish with 1 hit point. Ugh. Silly
so
Gar.
Gar.
Yeah, the Gar. But yeah, so that's it. Travis and I are we kind of put aside work we were doing on the thing we thought was going to be after Peoples of the Crossroads Continent, which is magic items of the Crossroads Continent.
Oh, nice.
And so that's The writing is pretty much done. He's still tweaking a few things, and then I have to do the art for all the items. So I don't know when that's going to happen. But
Yeah.
the good thing about Crossroads is we do it when we can.
Mhm.
It's not, we don't see it as major release time. It's, hey, this is fun. Okay, let's go ahead.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and that's something else. Is for Legendlore, for Skylands, obviously we produce those kind of in our traditional way. We get lots of artists, get lots of writers together. It's kind of very much a structured thing. This is very much Rich's baby. So all the art is Rich's.
Yep.
All the stuff.
It might not stay that way for everything we do. I'd love to
right
some
now,
of my friends who are artists and let them do something in the world. But right now,
sure.
Right now, it just makes sense.
But yeah, it's nice to see something that's has such a singular vision. I mean, like it's fun to get a team together and do a creative thing. Don't get me wrong, I still love doing it, but it's also nice to just to be able to say I'm just doing my thing right here, and just a very small, tight team doing a really cool thing can be really fun too.
Yeah, totally. Now I am
as tight as it gets.
Yeah, it's you and Travis.
Well, that said, it is 4:00. So, Rich, if people want to talk to you about Crossroads Continent or any of your other 5e games that we work on, where would they find you, talk to you?
Rich T at theonyxpath.com. Email is all over the place. And the best place, if you want to have like an actual conversation, is in the comments section of the Monday Meeting Notes blog, which goes out every Monday. I write that and give people updates of what we're working on. Except for this Monday, where Dixie's in charge and I'm on vacation.
Right. Exactly. So I'm going to ruin the blog. It'll be really fun.
I might still pop into the comments, but there's no guarantee.
I burned it down the previous week, so that's a hard.
You burned down Rich's house that he was about to.
Yes, that's I bar to clear.
You're an animal. Monster.
All right.
I just wondered, Dixie, before we do leave, were there any questions that popped up on the chat? Anybody had anything they want to know?
Just the one about 3 Scene Vault, which is why I poked it in there. So I haven't seen anything else. We were talking about our 5e stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, people just having a good time talking about it.
Eddie, where can folks find you? Follow you?
You can find me on Twitter at Pugsteady. That's Pugstady. You can find my website at pugsteady.com. You can listen to me as well as Dixie and our friend Matthew Dawkins every week on the Onyx podcast every Friday.
Colleague.
He did legally earn my friendship in the game show.
How did he earn that? I won.
There's a side quest.
It's a side quest. That's right. You did win. So you are legally my friend.
And also, I didn't win your friendship. I won your respect, according to you at the beginning of that show.
I'll have to check the court record. I'll check that. Anyway,
saying.
If you like this kind of nonsense, definitely listen to us on Fridays on the Onyx Pathcast. Otherwise, you can find me in the Onyx Path Discord, where right now it looks like we're having lots of conversations about the ongoing Aether Kickstarter. So
which is awesome. Definitely do check out the Trinity Continuum Aether Kickstarter, Aether, however you want to say it. That is really, really fun. I am looking forward to it. It is Trinity Continuum in the Victorian era. Lots of canon characters as far as both fictional and non-fiction. People like Edison, Tesla. But we also have vampires and werewolves and all kinds of just weird stuff running around.
Weird Victorian era scary bits.
Jekyll and Hyde, etc., etc. So definitely go look at that. I'm sure that Ian is finding the link right now because that's how Ian is.
Very diligent and on top of things.
That said, you can find me pretty much everywhere at Dixie Cyanide. You can find me on the Onyx Path Discord. Possibly not reading the Aether channel all the time because it's been popping way too much for me. And also it's Friday night and I'm about to be off work. But I will be around. And you can find us at theonyxpath.com all the time. That's where the blog is hosted. And I guess as always, you want to say the thing, Rich? You want me to say the thing?
Oh, say the thing.
10 years, many worlds, one path.